So I always say link up with the hiring manager. Link up on LinkedIn with them. See if you have something in common with them.
Standing between you and your next great job is the hiring manager, the interviewer, someone who needs to ask you the right question to see if you have what it takes to be a part of their team. That's what we're going to talk about today. How to win over an interviewer in 30 minutes or less. Our guest today is Amanda Mast, Director, Senior Client Relationships at Fusion Recruiters. Amanda, great to see you. Happy Monday. How are you today?
I'm good. Thanks, Pat. Excited to be here today.
So let's get into winning over the interviewer. What should we know going into that first interview?
A lot of it is, researching it to start. So looking at the company, but also looking at that job description, right? Kind of highlighting what it is that you feel you can jump in and do right away. Or are there areas in that job description that you already know I'm going to have to kind of learn these pieces? And then even looking at the LinkedIn and who do you have a phone interview, with? And are you connected with that person? Or do you know somebody in your network who's connected with that company? Or maybe they worked for that company.
You said go through the job description and figure out what you might need to learn how to do. Is
Mhm.
that okay to be 85% or 90% qualified for a job right now?
Absolutely. I actually tell people all the time, even if you feel 50% of what's in the job description you're able to deliver and bring, go ahead and apply. And part of that is, especially if it's a company that you really have on your radar that you'd like to work for, especially with technology, a lot of the HR teams are utilizing talent that's already in their system to look at for other positions as well in the future. So even if that position isn't going to line up to be the right fit for you or the company, there might be an opportunity in the future once you're kind of in their database.
So, what's it like, and what are the differences when you're talking to a recruiter or a human resources person versus the actual hiring manager?
Yeah, and I would definitely say, in my experience at the different companies I've worked at and working more on the agency side, where we do partner with a lot of different companies, 9 times out of 10, the first interview or that first phone interview is going to be with somebody from human resources or talent acquisition or AKA the recruiter. So it's going to really know that what they're looking for is, do you meet most of the kind of qualifications that they want? And also, they're looking at culture fit. They're looking at personality fit. Are you going to fit with the team? Are you going to fit with the dynamics with the hiring manager and the type of personality he or she would bring? So they're looking at it for more of the total fit within the organization. And then, what are some of those other kind of qualifications that the manager outlined to the recruiter or HR team? And do you kind of check those boxes? So, in general, sometimes they can be really specific, and then other times it might just be more of a general overview of your background. But also know that HR can bring in those behavioral questions, which are those very specific examples. So when we take one step back and talk about how do you prepare, I always say to people, making a list of those accomplishments that are things that you were able to deliver very well in your previous roles so that you have those very top of mind to speak to. So if that recruiter or that HR person says, tell me about a time when you specifically delivered this X, Y, and Z, right? They want to know the real specifics of how did you get there? Were they on time, within budget, right? And they might only ask you that one question. So just know that HR might dig into that. They might just be very surfacey. When you get to the hiring manager and having a conversation with that person, they're going to care a lot more about what specific actual like technical skill sets or aptitude do you have related to what they're hiring for. They're going to be less concerned on the cultural fit because their focus is, I have a job, I need to fill it. So they're going to ask you more of those technical or really job specific questions.
I don't want to get away from that first interview, especially if it's with a recruiter, and
Mhm.
not ask you for your take on the money question, which normally comes up right before we
Yeah.
get passed off to the hiring manager.
Yep.
So if you're talking with a recruiter, especially, and they say, what are your salary expectations? I mean, Should we be shooting for the moon? Should we be giving our legitimate no lower than X?
We all have a certain cost of living we want to live by. We have a line or a range, each person does, of what they're looking to see. As the candidate, just know you can always opt out of this question. So
Hmm.
you can always turn it around and tell the recruiter, like, hey, you know what? It's early in the process. I'd prefer not to answer that question. So you always have an out if you're not ready to talk about that or you didn't prepare what that range might be for you. It doesn't mean that's going to not have you move forward in the process. So there's nothing there that would stop you from moving forward, but just know if you want to answer that question, I always say to provide a range. Maybe
Hmm.
it's a $10,000 range that you might want to kind of stick to. Again, do your homework ahead of time. Take a look at it, use your experience, talk to others that are doing those roles. Maybe you have peers or other students if you're just graduating that you can talk to and ask them what are kind of they looking at, what's the range that they're able to provide to you, as doing some homework around that besides what you might be able to find online. But that would be my recommendation on salary, is giving more of a range than an actual like bottom line number. If you provide the bottom line number, depends on the company's philosophy and how they do pay, but you wouldn't want them to just give you that lowest numbers.
Okay, we're passed off from the recruiter or the HR person to the hiring manager.
Yeah.
We're trying to win them over on that first phone call. What kind of secrets and tips do you have for us?
So again, besides taking a look at that job description, knowing what you want to highlight, right? They're looking for these key things. You want to make sure to talk about those key things that you can bring to the table. But I would also say one of the great things that everybody always likes, I mean, who doesn't like to be kind of called out and feel good about something? So I always say link up with the hiring manager. Link up on LinkedIn with them. See if you have something in common with them. Maybe you went to the same school, or maybe you worked at the same company, you just weren't there at the same time. And then when you get on that phone discussion, I would say, hey, Pat, you know what? You and I are in the same connected group. Did you know that? And maybe that's a way that you can kind of, have a little icebreaker into the conversation. And again, know that you took the time to do the research. So I think, having those examples and being able to do that is something that most managers think pretty highly of.
Once we get through the worky work stuff, like the experience and the knowledge, you still have to be likable, right?
Yes, absolutely. So practice, if you're somebody who's been at a company a while or you haven't interviewed in a while, call a buddy, talk to somebody, say,
Mm.
can you just do some practice questions with me? Just because sometimes that repetition helps so it feels more natural, more conversational. And it doesn't just feel like, oh, dang, I forgot to say that, or oh, I could have said that better. So, I have that 1 30-minute conversation and you really want to be prepared, especially if it's something you really want, right? Is how can I put my best foot forward, and practicing and articulating and knowing again how you want to do that is going to really set you up for success. So, kind of thinking about it too in more conversational is fun. You can crack a couple jokes. You can, make it light, because I do think at the end of the day, we want to work with people that we find enjoyable,
Mhm.
not people that go on and on and on and on. I mean, that can be painful. And sometimes those folks are just nervous, or they don't
Mhm.
know how to cut it off. Like, okay, I'm done. I need to go to the next question, right? So again, I think that's why that practice definitely will help.
What are those signs that you see that you go, "Okay, that person has what it takes?" Anything come to mind?
Yeah, actually a few. So I would definitely say energy, right? Somebody who is willing to go the extra mile. I mean, if I'm the hiring manager, I want some of my team who, if I need them to work an hour later, is willing to do that. Let's be honest, right? And teachable. So remember, you're not going to know everything coming into the job. So are you willing to learn? If I connect you with someone else on the team, are you willing to listen and take direction from other people to get up to speed quickly? So energy, teachable, and then just asking questions. Are you willing to ask if you're lost? Are you willing to kind of say, I don't know all the answers? and really ask for some help or direction, because asking questions rather than just feeling like if I ask, I sound stupid and then I don't know what I'm doing, but then you're off on your whole project, let's say. I think somebody who is also willing to kind of take a step back and say, you know what, I'm just going to ask someone else on the team, or I'm going to ask my manager because I need to get redirected because I don't know everything.
And that is really interesting to me. So if you're in an interview, I think it
Hmm.
comes to us naturally to try and BS our way, frankly, through answers we might not know the answer to. But
Hmm.
you're saying, if I'm hearing you correctly, it actually scores points if you ask a question, they say, no, I don't know that. Am I hearing you right?
Yeah, I mean, and I think if it's something you don't know, but you've researched it, like, so you read the job description, let's say, and there's something in there you don't have any experience in. When that manager maybe asks you that question, tell me about your experience in this. You can say, you know what, I haven't had an opportunity to do that, but I have researched it. And I feel
Mm,
that, I can definitely gain that experience, or I can take this course, or I can do this. So again, it just shows that, yep, you're not gonna know everything, but you're willing to take the extra steps to get there.
great stuff. Really great stuff. Amanda Mast, Director, Senior Client Relationships at Fusion Recruiters. Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
You bet. Thanks for having me, Pat.
My pleasure. Hey, it's Pat Miller, the Idea Coach, here from the Interview Podcast. If you enjoyed this information and you want to watch more of the podcast or some other helpful videos like resume tips, interview best practices, and more career training info, you can get it on our website. Check out the website at careerdevelopmentsolutions.com/webinars. One more time, that's careerdevelopmentsolutions.com/webinars. See you there.